Hello students, welcome to today's class. Has been a holiday. I believe you all enjoyed the Salah break. I welcome you once again to today's class. I am gracious. In our last class, we discussed on trade association, where I told us the meaning of trade association, the meaning of chamber of commerce, and also the difference between trade association and chamber of commerce. I was able to establish that trade association has to do with the coming together of businessmen of the same line of business. Also have chamber of commerce, which has to do with coming together of businessmen in different line of business. We talk about their reasons for coming together. We also look at the benefits that they tend to derive for coming together. So today we are looking at other business combination. We'll be starting with cartel. Our objective today, one, is to define cartel, define trust, differentiate between cartel and trust, and lastly, to explain consortium. Now, let's look at the term cartel. Cartel is one of the business combinations that we have out there. Now, it has to do with the coming together of independent producers of similar products. There's a coming together of independent producers of similar products. A very good example is OPEC, which is the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Country, of which Nigeria is one of them. Their main reason for coming together is to see how they can have a strong influence, a strong control over the market. And when they come together, there are two things they have control over. One is the price of their products, and two is the output. Now, they decide when to increase price or when to reduce price. They also decide when to reduce output and when to increase output. So by either ways, if there's an increase in output, it's going to affect the price. Now, if there is a decrease in output, it definitely will affect the price. So these are the major ways by which cartel tend to control the market. We have many examples. We have the drug cartel. We have many of them. But the one that is very, very easy for us to understand at this very moment is that of OPEC. All right, let's look at some of the features of cartel. The first here is that a cartel is monopolistic in nature. Now, when a business is monopolistic in nature, or when a seller is monopolistic in nature, here it means that the seller has, singular control over a product or services in the market. So in this case, he can decide how he runs his business because he is the sole producer of such commodity or services. Two, it is established by independent producers of similar products. Now, please take note of this. Independent here means that the fact that they belong to a group does not mean that they are not independent. They retain their identity, but here they work together to have a singular voice over the market. So each member of this cartel, they retain their identity. Then three, they allocate quotas to members. They allocate quotas to members. Each members of this cartel, they are given certain quotas, certain allocations, or certain portions that they can supply to the market. No member is allowed to go above a given quota. Now, if a member should decide to go above a given quota, that member can be sanctioned by the rules that guide their operation. So each member is having his or her own allocation. Nigeria, for instance, that is a member of OPEC, they have their allocation, their quotas that they can supply to the oil market. 4, they restrict output so as to force price up. They reduce output so as to force price. Talking about the law of demand and supply, you know what happens there. Now, when there is an increase in price, okay, this can lead to what? Fall in demand. But when there is a reduction in price, this can lead to an increase in demand. On the contrary, in the law of supply, now supply, the major determinant here is actually the price. Now the supplier would want to supply more to the market if the price is high. On the contrary, if the price is low, the supplier will not be encouraged to supply more to the market. Reason being that the supplier is profit oriented. 5, competition is removed. Now, given the fact that they produce similar products, now you can imagine if they are not under a singular body, what would happen is that there is going to be an unhealthy competition. Now, when there is an unhealthy competition, a lot can happen. Let's say Mr. A, B, and C producing similar products. Mr. A will want to do anything possible to see that he gain a very good control over the market. Remember, profit is the motive. So Mr. B and Mr. C will do likewise. And by so doing, they end up producing what we call substandard products. And now price here tend to encourage the customers to buy more. So if the price is low, the customers want to buy more. So in the case of competition, Mr. A might produce substandard products just to get bulk of the market. But in this case, that is completely removed. Now let's look at trust. Trust is similar to cartel. But the difference here is that trust has to do with producers that are in different line of business. It is the coming together of competing firms in different line of business under a single control. I think the main similarity here is that they come under a singular control to have one voice as to how the business is managed. In this case, under trust, each firm tends to retain their identity. Okay, each firm tends to retain their identity. Now, there are people that will be appointed to manage it. Now, these people are referred to as the trustee. They take over the management and control of this business entity known as trust. Certificates are issued to each members of the trust. Now, let's look at some of the difference between trust and cartel. The first is that under trust, members will lose their independence, while under cartel, members will still maintain their independence. So the control, okay, the control in this case is actually committed to a singular body. But what happened here is that the independence that they have, they tend to lose it under trust. But when it comes to cartel, there is retention of their independence. 2, trust is a complete merger. It is a complete merger. Now, when it's talking about compared to cartel, which is not a complete merger, what happened here is that the members of trust cannot easily withdraw. Like when it comes to cartel, you can easily withdraw. And this is why cartel is not a complete merger, unlike that of trust. So cartel is voluntary and members can easily withdraw. If tomorrow Nigeria as a member of OPEC now decide to withdraw, yes, they can actually choose to withdraw. Though there might be some consequences, let's say trying to see how they can penetrate into the market. But in this case, it does not stop them from withdrawing in case they have any issues with the organization. Under trust, certificates are issued. Under cartel, there is no issuance of certificates. Under trust, there is no quota system, while under cartel, there is a quota system where people have allocation as to what they can supply to the market. All right, let's look at the last 10 here, which is consortium. Consortium is a group of independent firms formed together to work on a particular project which requires large resources and is too complex for a single firm to undertake. Now, other business merger that have been mentioned earlier, this kind of business combination is that there might be a project that requires finances, or let's say a project that is highly complex, that requires so much to be executed. Now it becomes much more difficult for a singular firm to execute such a project. Now different firms will come together to see how a complex project can be executed. Example we have here is that of AIT, where we have different banks coming together to see how they can raise loan or give loan to African Independent Television. Now, the coming together of different firms to see how they can finance a project, of course, it is to their benefits. This is what is known as a consortium, the coming together of different firms to undertake a project that is too complex and requires large resources. Okay, we have holding company. Holding company. It is a company which acquires the whole or a large proportion of the issued share capital of other companies with the objective of actively controlling such companies. Now, when it comes to holding companies, I think the subject that is of concern here is the finance. Now, what happened here is that the holding companies, okay, the parent company is known as the holding company, while others whose shares are being acquired are its subsidiaries. Now, let me see how I can, explain this in a layman language. Let's say, for instance, we have Ss1 Nigeria PLC, because that is a multinational firm. We know that yes, they have the finance, they have the resources, and from time to time, some of these companies, they can actually issue out shares to the general public. Now remember, we said that some of these companies, in our definition of company, where we said that a company is an artificial person that can stand on its own, that can buy properties and do any other thing that a normal person would want to do, provided such a company or firm is a legal entity. So in this case, Ss1 Nigeria PLC happens to, let me say, buy a larger proportion of about 6 firms that choose to issue out their shares to the general public. Now, for the fact that Ss1 Nigeria PLC has a larger proportion of this company's shares, Ss1 Nigeria PLC in this case can be regarded as a holding company, while other 6 companies, let's say the companies or the member of those companies have less shares of those companies. Let me put it this way. If Ss1 Nigeria PLC had like 60% of each of these companies' shares, for instance, Ss1 Milo tend to what? Be in charge of this company because it has the larger proportion of the company's finance. So they try to see how they can gain control over other firms. Now, other firms in this case are referred to as subsidiaries. they tend to retain their identities and their names. They are still operating the way they should operate. But the truth is that Nestle Nigeria PLC has a larger portion of their finance, of their capital. Let's move further. Okay, we have price ring. So price ring is an association of competing firms who have agreed to operate a common price policy for their competing products. This is a bit similar to that of cartel. Now here is that they come together to see how they can have a singular price. This is just the similarity between price ring and cartel. But the difference here is that competition here still exists, but they can have a uniform price when it comes to selling out to the markets. There is competition. Now let me see, how can they compete when they are trying to ensure that they have a uniform price? They can compete, let's say, by reducing the standard of their products. Let's say the weights, the quality, as the case may be. But one thing that is sure is that they have a singular price and competition is allowed to thrive when it comes to price range. They come together to advocate for a common price. Alright, we have syndicates. Syndicates is somehow similar to consortium. But in this case, a syndicate is an association of organizations who work together for a common aim while retaining their independence. Here, they see how they can retain their independence. But what happens in syndicate is that there is a project they tend to finance which is of benefit to the members of this association. Take for instance, let's say there is we have like 5 firms that are located in, let's say, in an industrial area, and for some, probably the road, the link road, let's say for example the link road is bad. So if these firms should come together to finance the construction of this road, what happens is that it tends to benefit each of this firm. Now when it comes to consortium, we see that they finance a project that is complex and that requires large capital, but there they still make their profits. Okay, but in this case, when it comes to syndicates, you see that the project they are trying to finance or the project that they are trying to be involved in is a project that will benefit each and every member, just like an access road that can actually lead to different firms that are located in a location with a bad road. Okay, we have forward integration and backward integration. Forward integration is a direct opposite of backward integration. Now, talking about forward integration, one thing about these two is that the firms that come together in this case, they see how they can eliminate the middlemen, okay, so that they can remove the excesses of the middlemen, and by so doing, they are able to cut costs. Now, let's look at forward integration. It is the coming together of manufacturing business with a firm that markets its products. A firm that markets its products. Now, in time past, we have this agricultural board in Nigeria, where you see that this board, they are in charge of buying the agricultural produce and selling it to the market. Now, under this forward integration, a firm here is in charge of buying the products of these different firms. They are in charge, like for instance a retailer. So in this case, the firms, they will bypass the wholesaler and sell directly to the retailer. In some cases, they can sell directly to the customer. By so doing, they have eliminated the excesses of the middlemen. Then we have backward integration, which is the opposite of forward integration. Now, there are two things that happen. One is that firms, they will definitely buy raw materials to produce. At the same time, they are going to sell out what they have produced. So in backward integration, they come together to see how they can buy raw materials from a singular firms. The advantages there is that they see how they can reduce costs and reduce or remove the excesses of the middlemen. So this is where we'll stop in today's class: forward integration and backward integration. I'll make this material available in the Google Classroom, so you can go there and access the materials. Now I have a very short assignment for us. I will explain the following: explain trusts, price rate, syndicates, and consortium. Thank you very much for your attention. Do enjoy your day. Goodbye. See you next week.